Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I'm recording this meeting, so I will send it out to the group. And I know there was going to be a couple of people that are out on vacation, so I will send it out to everybody right after this meeting. So just to get started, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for completing round one. We had great participation. We only had one person in our entire work group that wasn't able to, and that was because she was out on leave. Otherwise, we had 100% completion by all of our members. So definitely super thankful for that. So the objectives for today's meeting are, Dr. White and I want to review the round one results with the team. We will then move into showing what the process for round two is going to look like, what the reminder emails, and just to kind of talk about our timeline. We have some great news to share. And so looking at round one, 65% of our data elements met inclusion and reached consensus, which is huge. I mean, we were the work group that had the highest number of consensus. And so that's great news. I mean, we have like-minded people and it just makes our work easier as we move through the different rounds. And so 65%, 31 data elements met inclusion criteria. We haven't excluded any yet. And the final 17 data elements did not reach consensus. And so those are the ones that we will then see in the subsequent round two. Any questions on this? And I'm going to walk through what these numbers look like. Okay. That's great. So these are the data elements that did meet inclusion criteria. You know, it won't come as a surprise to anyone, I don't think. And so always met inclusion criteria. And then Nick was super helpful in putting the actual definition. So whether it was FITBR or NEMSIS, you'll see that right under the data element. And that was a definition that met consensus for that, or that ranked the highest for that data element. And so again, I will send this out to everybody right after our meeting. So no need to try to write things down. I'll leave it up here for a few seconds. Dr. White, any surprises or anything? I think this is great so far.
No, I think it makes sense so far.
Yeah. So these are the 17 data elements that have not met consensus yet. And so these are the ones. So what will happen, and we'll walk through these in the next steps, but what will happen is that the ones that have met consensus and that have reached inclusion criteria will be out of the Delphi survey. And now you will only be focusing on these 17 plus the additional suggested ones that work group members might have proposed. And so these are the only ones we have left to review that will show up in round two. Anybody have questions or concerns about these?
Sorry, I did have one question.
Yes. Somebody have a question?
I did. It just remind me, did we include weight and BMI in the list? I just can't remember from the first round.
Let me go back here. I do not believe so. So weight and BMI, and Nick, correct me if I'm wrong, but those were captured in a different area.
Okay.
Yeah, those are captured in a different area. So we did not include them in pre-hospital.
Okay.
I have can everybody hear me?
Sorry, Olga, I didn't get that last part.
I'm saying, so you probably can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm looking, and maybe I'm wrong. It looks like some of these elements which did not meet consent, like laboratory result, do they belong? Are other groups also considering these ones or not?
I can speak on that, Olga. So these laboratory results were originally included in this particular work group. However, you and I have had discussions about how those different form structures can be designed to report out laboratory results. So it's currently only listed on this particular work group. However, that's a discussion that we will be having with the CDE steering committee kind of once we get the results of this first round to see exactly how we would like it to be formatted. As you've shared the laboratory fit for structures with me, and we've talked about those. My guess is that we're going to end up structuring the data in a similar fashion to that. But that's not something that this work group will be working on, but the CDE steering committee will.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
So Nick, that means that the laboratory results are going to basically cut across all work groups and be applied
Yes,
sort of holistically. Okay.
exactly. So we wanted to still, it was something that came up frequently, of course, in what was collected. So we didn't want to automatically exclude it. We still wanted to provide it to you as whether we think that, reporting these laboratory results is important. The way that they're going to get reported in terms of the design and implementation of that needs to be, of course, kind of standardized. So that's something that's going to be, as I said, managed at kind of the next tier up.
Okay, I'm going to move along. Speak up if anyone has questions, feel free to let us know. All right, there was a couple of additional data elements that were suggested from work group members that we are adding in, and so you'll see on round 2. So TXA with an additional variable that captures time of administration, and also Nick and I are currently looking up. We're going to try to see if we can find an MSIS variable that captures assisted ventilation, intubation attempt, or advanced airway. And so those are suggested, and we are looking into that so that we can include in round 2. And I will show you. So there was a couple of others that were suggested that we've discussed with Dr. White, and we just wanted to be sure that we brought it to the group. So if somebody suggested it, they realized that we did talk this through. And so there was one suggestion on including some burn injury indicators. And what we found by working with some of our steering committees is that anything that's burn specific, we are not going to include that element into the pre-hospital specific work group, because not all studies would have that specific element in it, or a majority of them probably wouldn't. And so that won't be in this work group. And then trauma center level, just as an FYI, just a note on that is that the NEMSIS definition for hospital capability that we included in our pre-hospital data element list does already capture trauma center level. And so if you look at the definition closely, it will say level 1, 2, 3, 4, like it does have that already in there. And that has met inclusion. Okay, so the Delphi survey process and what it's going to look like, Pam is going to, we should be releasing round 2 tomorrow, and we're just making the final edits to that. And Pam will then send an email out with the instructions for round 2. I want it to walk through the instructions so that they're super clear and you guys can ask questions if you have any. And so one note for round 2 is that if you skip the data element in the previous round, so if you skip the data element in round 1, you will not see the group statistics for that item. And so you will need to make a selection, save it by clicking on that blue arrow at the very bottom, and then hit the back arrow to see your selection and group stats. And so it's better to click something even if you have no opinion, so that you can then see what the group stats are on that specific element. And I'm going to walk through the instructions, and then Pam will show us what that looks like. So data elements that reach consensus to either exclude or include in our group has not excluded any yet. So the ones that we did include and that have reached consensus will now be hidden from your view. So you will no longer be able to see those, and those pages will be left blank. You'll review the responses that you gave for each of the remaining data elements and look at the definitions, and they're now placed in the context of the entire group's ratings. This image is a little fuzzy, but again, we're gonna walk through this real time so that you can see exactly what it looks like. But what you're gonna be looking at is this part here that says the lowest consensus score is the preferred definition. And so that'll help you kind of see where we're currently at. Then next, if your colleagues provided comments related to the data element or the definitions, you're not going to be able to see that. There'll be a number in red bracket underneath the items. And if you click on the red bracketed numbers, you can then read the comments that somebody put in there. You may also provide additional comments in this round by selecting click to make a comment. And you can add anything that you want so that then your colleagues in this work group can see your comment as well. We want you to consider all the feedback and the comments from your fellow workgroup members and decide whether you'd like to revise your rating to move closer to consensus on the remaining data elements and definitions. And then any changes that you make will then be reflected in the third and final round. And so, like I said at the beginning, we're in pretty good shape that we only have 17 left to review. So we really knocked out a whole bunch of them in just that first initial round without seeing comments. The new data elements suggested by your colleagues have been added to the end of the survey, and those are the 2 that we talked about are now added to the end, so you'll be able to make a consensus determination on that. And then you're simply returning to your already completed survey. So I know I've gotten some questions about that green bar at the bottom showing progress made. It will not move unless you provide ratings on items you skipped in the previous round. So don't worry about that ratings bar, just really work page by page as you go along. I am going to let Pam show you. Pam, do you have it pulled up on your screen?
I do.
Okay, I'm gonna give you control so that you can show them. Okay, you should have it now.
Okay, I'm going to show my whole messy desktop. Can you all see that?
Not yet.
Oh, whoops, here we go.
Okay, you see it.
Okay. So this, I just grabbed a screenshot. I'm not going to be able to show you exactly what yours will look like because it is under construction. But so there is a little drop-down menu at the top, which is kind of behind here. When you pull that drop-down menu, you'll be able to see this note on pages that there'll be some blank pages, in other words, and you'll be able to see everything on page 9. Not just so you're not, wondering what happened to this page or whatever. There'll be a sentence there that says all questions from this page have reached consensus. If you're using the arrows at the bottom, I think it just totally skips the page. But if you want to look here on the drop-down menu, you'll be able to see that instruction. The other thing that you will not be able to do is you won't be adding additional data elements anymore. So your chance to do that was in round 1, and you will not have the opportunity to do that in this round. I pulled up your survey. This is not correct because it's still the statistics are still being worked on in the background, but I just wanted to show you this is an illustration of what Lizette was saying. So there's here is what you chose last time will be the blue dot. If somebody made a comment, there'll be a note in red brackets there. And then to hide it again, you just have to click the red bracket again. So all you'll be able to see is actually all we're leaving is this set of statistics, which will show you, the percent consensus on that question. These things are going away here. And then when you get to the definitions, the only thing you'll see, you won't see this agreement number here, but you'll see the consensus and I think the majority. And as Lizette said, the closer this number is to 1, is the preferred definition. So the lower the number, the more preferred the definition. So those are really the 2 things you need to know about it.
Pam, could you tell us what is that number? Do you know how that's calculated? Yeah.
Nick will be able to explain it better than me.
It's Dr. White, it's just the mean ranking. So we take everyone's ranking of either 1 or 2, and then it's just calculating out the mean from there for all the responses. Okay. And then it will have that percentage agreement there, that number actually will stay there, but you all don't need to worry about that number. The way that the system is designed, that's looking at covariation, but we don't really care about that for how we're determining which definition to use. We're strictly working on which definition had the lowest ranking score, the closest to 1 as being the most preferred. But
Oh,
yeah,
it's the
it's just the
majority.
mean.
This is what will be hidden, the majority score
Yeah.
there. Yeah, just the consensus and the agreement.
So we have come into instances where there's been ties or extremely close mean scores between the two. For your particular work group, we didn't have any of that. We didn't have that occur in the first round. But that's just something to keep in mind, that if we have extremely close rankings between two definitions, or a tie between two definitions, we're making sure that we're marking that. And then what we can do is kind of at the end of the process is then kind of have a discussion on a call like this to talk through which one the group would prefer.
And then the only other thing I want to point out is that because of that progress bar is not easy, it won't be easy for me to see who has responded and who hasn't. I can do it, but it involves some, getting into the back end. So when I send reminders out, I apologize in advance. I'm just going to send it to everyone and say, please get to this if you haven't yet. So if, I apologize for any pushes that you don't need to get, but at the very end of the process, toward the last few days, I'll go into the back end, see who hasn't gotten to it yet, and then I'll start really hounding you.
Thank you, Pam. Can you give me the host back?
Yep. There you go.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. So again, our timeline. So round 2, we're doing the last finishing touches today, and so we should be able to launch tomorrow, June 12th, but June 13th. Sorry, but I will we'll send an email out just to confirm that in case that we have any glitches that happen between now and then. And then just a reminder, the reminder emails will go to everyone. I know our group was pretty great at, Pam was in the emails, and then I started doing some outside pushes just to help us along. And so like you guys will let me know, like, oh, I just completed it. And if you do that, I can check you off the list as well. So again, don't get startled if we send a reminder email, you already completed it. Just a process thing on our end. And then that's all we have. So are there any questions, comments, concerns? I mean, our group is running really well, and everything's kind of been lining up perfectly with being able to explain the rounds right before our launch dates, which has been helpful. Are there any questions, comments, concerns from anyone in the group? Okay, then I think we're ready to roll then. Dr. White, anything to add?
No, I just wanted to sort of restate what you said, that this is going along surprisingly smoothly. And that's because of everyone on the call. I want to thank everyone for that, for putting in effort on that. And I think it's working out really well so far. I'm sure we'll have some time to argue about things, which is the fun part coming up here.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And I will get the recording and these slides out to everybody today. Thank y'all. Have a great one.
Great. Thank you.